Good evening, everyone. I'm calling this council meeting of East Brunswick Township Agenda Action Meeting for March 11, 2019 to order. Please, everybody stand for the rise of Pledge Allegiance and remain standing for a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please have a seat. Ms. Perry, can you please call the roll?
Councilman McAvoy.
Here.
Councilman Spadafino.
Here.
Councilwoman Sullivan.
Here.
Councilman Wendell. Here. Council President Stanley.
Here.
Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided as required under Chapter 231 PL 1975, specifying the time, date, location, and to the extent known the agenda. By posting a copy on the Municipal Building Public Notice Bulletin Board located in the main lobby, providing a copy to the Home News Tribune and Sentinel newspapers, posting a copy on the Township's website, and by filing a copy in the office of the Township Clerk in accordance with the certification, which will be entered in the minutes. Tonight, we are beginning with a proclamation for the 45th Annual Bargain Book and Media Sale for the Friends of the Library. Councilwoman Sullivan will be reading the proclamation. If anybody from the Friends of the Library are here, they may come to the podium.
Proclamation, 45th Annual Bargain Book and Media Sale. Whereas the library is one of the township's most valuable resources, bringing knowledgeable and enjoyment to nearly every resident of our community, and whereas the Friends of the Library support the work of our public library through fundraising and other worthwhile programs, and whereas the Friends of the Library hold an annual book and media sale at the Brunswick Square Mall as a community service for the benefit of the library and its patrons. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that I, Brad J. Cohen, Mayor of the Township of East Brunswick, do hereby proclaim the March 25th through March 31st, 2019 shall be known as Friends Book Sale Week within the community in order to recognize the enormous contributions made by the Friends of the Library and to encourage participation in the book and media sale by all citizens. Be it further proclaimed that the Civic Center Drive shall be renamed Book Sale Drive for the week of March 25th through March 31st, 2019. Given under my hand in the Great Sale of the Township of East Brunswick, this 11th day of March in the year of 2019. Brad Cohen.
Hello, my name is Adrienne Levine. I live at 3 Rush Court in East Brunswick, and I am co-chair of the Friends of the East Brunswick Public Library. So I'd like to tell you a little bit about how the book sale is going to be. The East Brunswick Friends of the Library's annual bargain book and media sale begins this year on March 25th in the J.C. Penney Court of the Brunswick Square Mall. We are celebrating our 45th anniversary this year. The sale continues during the mall hours through Sunday, March 31st. This much-anticipated annual sale event features thousands of used hardcover and paperback books, including adult, children's, large print, and collector's books, as well as audiobooks and a large selection of CDs and DVDs. Everything is bargain priced. On Tuesday and Wednesday, there will be a special craft night for children adjacent to the sale site. They will be making origami bookmarks, buttons, and get a chance to use some of the technology. These crafts and activities aren't solely geared to children. Well, they're not solely geared to children. The adults it'll also appeal to adults, and everyone will be welcome to participate. Additionally, the book sale is one of our town's great recycling efforts. Many of our town citizens volunteer their time during the week, and our high school students earn their community service hours. The Friends Board works tirelessly to raise funds through their fundraising efforts to support the library and its programs. Please make frequent visits to the book sale as we put out new material several times daily. So please come and volunteer with us. You can find more information on the library's website regarding volunteering and more information about the book sale. I thank the mayor and the council on behalf of the Friends. And please come to support us at the Brunswick Square Mall in our efforts, as you have been doing in the past. Thank you.
Thank you. Very much. At this time, I'd like to call up the Director of Public Works, Dan Losick. He is giving us a presentation on solid waste and recycling.
Good evening. I just wanted to give a little presentation on solid waste and recycling. I know it's kind of a topic that seems to go around every once in a while in Township. First of all, we have a new contract this year. It's the same contract as we had for the last 10 years, and we awarded a 5-year bid back in the end of last year. The new bid in terms of solid waste saw a 35% increase, so you can see those costs are going to rise for our township residents in terms of our solid waste collection. The tipping fees involved with getting rid of the solid waste at the landfill also went up $1 per ton, so that's roughly about $23,000 to $24,000, right, for that additional cost too. Something we did do a little differently in the contract with respect to solid waste is on holidays, instead of having both days being collected. For instance, the big example is on a Monday. If we have a holiday on a Monday, we used to collect on a Tuesday, Monday's collection and Tuesday's collection. We'll no longer do that. We'll push everything back. Mondays will be collected Tuesdays, normal Tuesdays will be collected Wednesdays, so on and so forth. So the Fridays will be collected Saturdays. And this allows a little bit of relief for a contractor in order to get people and equipment. It's tough to get a double crew, and to have people that are competent enough to handle the drivers and to just sprout up an extra crew a couple times a year is pretty difficult. And we found that speaking with the vendors prior to our bid process, that the hardship they had was finding competent drivers to fill their trucks to drive those. A lot of those drivers have gone to more lucrative driving spots like Amazon and things like that. They don't want to go to the top of the landfill in July or August, potentially get stuck and be there, and it's just not what a lot of people want to do. So we are realizing some of those hardships on their part. We'd like to ask, though, if there's any missed collections. We think the best way to report them to us is to email us at recycling@eastbrunswick.org. It's something we can monitor more frequently on weekends, and we can be more attentive to any issues that may arise, and we can handle them a little bit quicker than something as a phone call, where the office might not be staffed on a Saturday, and we can maybe meet some needs a little bit earlier than anticipated. I'd also like to encourage residents to use our My Waste app, which will be rebranded, it'll be called Recycle Coach. So I think the company's kind of rebranding the term waste is kind of a negative connotation, and they want to rebrand themselves as Recycle Coach, more positive in terms of recycling. So you'll see a change in that. You won't see a change in the app itself. You'll just see a change in the name. But that would instruct you how to get rid of items, when your collections are. It can give you reminders. So it's a very, very good tool in order to get community engagement with the residents and ourselves. You can put in issues you may be having, and we'll also receive them. So I think it's the most interactive way we have to get in touch with residents. Another topic that we kind of hear once in a while too is a weight limit. So in our bid specifications, you have to come up with some sort of parameter, and the weight limit of 50 pounds per item it's for the union contract of the hauler. So anything bigger than that, it won't be collected. So we try to tell residents anything over 50 pounds, if you don't get collection, that could be the cause of it. So just ensure that it's less than 50 pounds for one person to handle. The haulers are doing multiple items at a time to try to get through their routes a day, and that's the limit they have on their contract. Also, to go along with the parameters, in a way to structure a contract, you have to have some sort of guidelines. And we've always had a 5-item limit. And that could be 5 cans. That could be 5 bags. So that's the parameter. You can't just have an open-ended contract. And how would you come up with a cost for that? It's kind of, if it was too wide of a scope. So. And then what we're probably going to see too in coming up is grass collection. I think a lot of residents, bag their grass, and that's their prerogative. But again, if it's the 5-item limit and you have lots and lots of bags, things are going to fill up. So the contractor has the right to not take anything additional from that. We encourage people to grass cycle, cut less when it gets a little higher, to add those clippings back into your lawn. It provides nitrogen for your lawn and growth, and it won't create thatch or anything like that. And it's a large expense in terms of getting rid of it at the landfill. Grass is very heavy, so you can weigh out your what you put out for collection and see how much of that percentage is grass. So a large percentage of your stuff is really just an organic, decayable material that we're throwing to a landfill. And we're quite fortunate that we do have a landfill in our town too, because we can get host community benefits for that. So in our opinion, the longer we can keep the landfill active, it's just beneficial to the community and the county as well. Another thing we wanted to just kind of point out was sticks, branches, and leaves are not considered solid waste. It's considered yard waste. So if you do have any kind of branches or sticks, we collect that the 3rd week of every month. We just have to call to schedule that, and we will come collect that. We'd rather have that broken down into wood chips and disposed of in a suitable fashion rather than using at the landfill. Any questions on solid waste portion of things, or?
Councilman Sullivan?
Oh, okay. Yeah, you said you have the weight limit of 50 pounds?
Yes, per item.
Is that like when you call up and let's say someone wants to send a couch out or a refrigerator and you pick that, it only could be 50 pounds total? Is that what you're saying?
Something like a bulk item, the driver would then help for that, but we're talking just
regular garbage?
Bags, containers,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, just
Yep.
want to make sure I understand that. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Council?
Some towns have large containers that are hooked up and dumped into the truck so that the workers don't have to try to haul a 50-pound can. Is there any possibility that our disposal company may go to that type of unit?
The disadvantage to that is they would only collect what fits in there. So any of the bulk items that you would have wouldn't necessarily fit in there. So the benefit to our collection service is that we do provide for bulk services. I know there are surrounding towns that have a subscription service where they pay a private hauler to collect their own material, and whatever they can fit in that can will go. Anything other than that will not go. So it doesn't give us the leeway to collect larger items from people. It would be more restrictive. So although we have to abide by the 50-pound rule, we can benefit on the other side. So, but we have looked into that. And then in the bid, we would have to pay for the actual carts themselves too.
So with regard to what Councilman Spadafino said, Mr. Losick. You have investigated the possibility of these larger cans that could be purchased by the township and then distributed to all the residents.
Yes, I mean, some bids are structured that way, where the township would, you're essentially buying another can over, over the life of the contract. So they would be the township's property afterwards, but they would be able to utilize that, correct? But with the possibility of not having the bulk, I think that what residents have been used to over a long period of time, I think that's something that is unique to our town. And there are surrounding towns where, for instance, with the recycling and convenience center not allowing construction waste, that we've seen a dramatic decrease. I think a lot of that material perhaps came from other areas, and which they wouldn't collect those items, and I think we were taking the brunt of that.
So I'm just saying you have investigated this.
Yes.
Because part of the problem that I see in my neighborhood is that there are numerous households that don't use garbage cans. And what they do is they simply tie up their garbage in a bag and they put it out at the street. Now, with the warmer weather coming, I'm sure this is going to bring the rodents that could possibly attack these bags. So I'm just throwing that out there in the future, because I am also a proponent of these. I've seen it, we've seen it in Woodbridge, we've seen it in Edison, and it seems to work, especially with regard to everyone having to use their garbage can.
I mean, of course, we would recommend someone have a container. The material that they present or put out should also remain dry. It should have a lid on it too. That's where you can get things on the bottom, residue, and then sometimes you'll see, maybe a trail coming out of a truck, because the hoppers have drain holes. They can't, hold water in the back of the hoppers of the trucks, and then occasionally you get that trail of material behind. So that's why we try to have people have a covered container, which would be the most preferred method.
You also referenced My Waste is now going to be called the Recycle Coach.
Yeah, same app. Everything will transfer over, but
again,
just a different branding.
This is another platform, this live broadcast. Could you just share with the residents some examples of what would be mentioned to the Recycle Coach and then picked up?
Sure. If you have an item that you're not sure of how to get rid of it, you can do a search on the app, and it'll tell you what the method of disposal would be for that. Many items on that. Additionally, it will remind you the day before of your recycling collection or your solid waste collection, also your bag leaf collection, branch collection. So all those collections are kind of put into you as a reminder, kind of as your own personal calendar, but with respect to solid waste and recycling.
And let's just use one particular example, if I may. I'm not, in this hypothetical, I'm not hiring a construction firm to come to my house, but I have decided to replace my toilet. And since is that something that I could bring to the recycling center, or is that something that I have to leave out at the curb?
That would be curbside.
That's curbside.
Yes.
Even though I feel that I don't want this toilet bowl in front of my house for any duration of time. Maybe the garbage man didn't see it, or maybe it just wasn't on their list, and I want to bring it to the recycling center. You're not going to allow me into the recycling center with that toilet bowl.
Correct. That would be a curbside collection. So anything that that could be brought to the center can always be put curbside, and that's one of the items. As long as it's not over 50 pounds, also they'll collect that.
Just one other thing on that. The sticks and branches, could you accept that at the recycling center if people want to do it and bring it over, or only on the third week?
No, that'll be, that's always available to residents to be collected there. There's a place to do
I thought there
that,
was.
yes.
I wasn't sure.
Just the curbside portion of the branches. And then I'll get into the other part with the recycling part with the leaves. So.
Do you have to re-sign up for the app?
No, I believe it should.
Because I already get it, so
I believe it should carry over. Yeah.
If I may.
Sure.
I heard Councilman down the end, talking about the automated collection and the automated cans and the automated arm. I know that we looked into this in the past, and while there was significant cost outlay in the beginning, there may have been a cost benefit. The one thing that we did notice is that our tree canopies are far too low throughout town with the mature trees that we have, that we had to either go and trim all our trees to allow the canopies to be much higher on the streets, the trees that we all love so much, that would cause a problem with that type of collection, correct?
It could, based on whatever type of collection equipment they had.
Right.
Additionally, how it's presented too. So you couldn't really put, say, your can next to a car, things like that. So you had to have a little bit of room in order to maneuver that, I guess, too, with
And then just on the My Waste app, I'm happy it's changing, because all of these years we've been using it, every time I hear My Waste, I'm thinking about my waste.
Yeah, they misspelled it.
I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
Going back to Councilman McAvoy's comments, you said that curbside collection cannot be dropped off at the recycling center?
No.
Have you guys changed that rule? It was prior to, I remember, a lot of times if they missed collection on my street, I used to just hop in my car and drop it off. They'd have a truck there, and we could just dump it in there.
Household trash can. So what the real, I guess, designation of the center is called the convenience center. So it's for regular household garbage. So it wasn't intended ever for anything outside of that scope.
Okay. Because I think we need to make that clear to the community, because there's a lot of misconceptions of people bringing, I mean, a lot of posts that I see and a lot of complaints that I have received personally is the fact that they have come to the center to drop something off and they refused, even though they live in East Brunswick, even though it's just one or two pieces, and they're saying that, they're not allowed to drop it off. So I think,
Councilman, can I interject? We have a permit with the DEP to run that convenience center.
Okay.
And the permit specifically calls it a convenience center. The convenience center permit from the DEP only allows you to, those gentlemen and the ladies that work there, to take ordinary household waste. Okay. There should be no construction debris in a convenience center. If you look it up, you go to the DEP website, you could see the whole definition of what a convenience center is supposed to be, the purpose of it, what it's there for, and so on. So there was never a provision in the permit to take items like construction material, a toilet bowl or something like that. So we have to adhere to that particular permit that we're given by the DEP. The DEP was to come down and observe construction debris going into the center. They could actually revoke our permit. The second part of that some people get upset about, and they call the office and I explain to them about the convenience center permit, it's supposed to be in a non-commercial plated vehicle. Some people come in with a truck that has commercial plates. The DEP permit is specific. It's not supposed to be intended for commercial vehicles to drop off those types of items. So our permit is very specific. And Dan does an excellent job with the center, and him and I have had numerous conversations about this, and he certainly has educated me about the convenience center. And in my conversations with the DEP, that's what we're supposed to be doing.
So is there any way we can get this education to the rest of the residents? I mean, I think if the misconception is there that we can drop off anything, we can't. Is it possible for you, to have that communication to the residents via My Waste, via Township website, many different ways?
It's in the My Waste app. If you put the product, as Dan had said, if you put the name of the product that you're looking to dispose, it will tell you. If you put toilet bowl, for example, put it out with your normal waste. Cooking oil was one thing that the county was looking at. They may tell you to take that to a county-hosted event. Paint or oil products that the county runs, hazardous waste disposal type of dates. So the app is very good in explaining to people where they're supposed to dispose of that particular product, and I'd highly recommend that. Also, residents, if they don't have the app on their phone, can just go to the normal township website and go under the section of solid waste and recycling. There's a interface to the My Waste app right from there, and you could type in the item and it will respond and tell you the appropriate place to dispose of the item.
Okay. So you're saying construction material is not considered a disposable material. So what about like furniture or mattress? Is that something that we can bring it down there, or is it something we leave at the curbside and ask for bulk pickup?
Yeah, the contents of the house is what, is considered able to bring down there.
Okay. So if I was changing my mattress and I decide, hey, I don't want it sitting on the curbside, it's going to rain the next 2 days, I'd rather drop it off, am I able to do that?
Mattresses? Yes.
Okay, just a question.
Yep.
All right. Can you also expand a little bit more about bulk pickups? What is it, who do they have to call? Do we have to arrange for a pickup, and other than the 5 items that you're allowed to pick up?
Bulk pickups in the once-a-week schedule should be picked up every collection. Now, the
Okay.
twice-a-week schedule, it's the second collection.
And what is considered bulk pickup?
Bulk pickups are, like you said, furniture,
Okay.
things like that, maybe a dresser, those types of items that are a little larger and a little bit more awkward to handle.
So is that something we need to call in, or is that already regular?
No, they should be collected, but if there's an issue where it's not collected, we need to know about it too. So if, someone's not collected, it does us no good to tell other people about it, and if we don't know about it, there's nothing we can do about it.
Okay, the other misconception I wanted to address is this 5-item limit. A lot of people think this just came about under the new administration, or it just came about in the last couple of years. Is this something that was prior to this contract, with that 5-item limit was always there, or is this part of this brand-new contract we're getting now?
No, it's been in place for a long period of time. I'm sure it's in the ordinance. We can give you the
Okay.
date it was put in place.
Because the reason I called you here today is to explain all these things, and try and clear up a lot of the misconception the community has as far as the garbage pickup, because that's been a number one complaint from the residents, especially these things. Because there's a lot of things out there saying that, oh, this 5-item limit is something brand new, it's never there before. I put stuff out, they all picked it up. Now all of a sudden, they don't pick up beyond 5. So just to be clear, this 5-item rule was always there prior to this.
Yes, and we've had the same hauler.
Okay.
I've heard the same kind of scuttlebutt where
Yeah.
it's a new hauler. It's not a new hauler. It's the
Yeah, same hauler.
same hauler we've had for 10 years. Correct.
Correct. All right. Thank you. And one more question. The
Sure.
My Waste app, if we miss collection, is there any way that we can report it through My Waste, or we have to go on the website?
No, you can report through My Waste, and you can take a photo and attach it with your
Okay.
issue that you send on over to us. If I may, then I'd like to go to the recycling end
Sure.
of things. If there's no other questions.
Yes.
That's my next question.
So the recycling portion of our bid jumped up dramatically. It went up 91%. A lot of that is due to the foreign markets. They are no longer accepting our material. Their tolerances on residue and contamination are so strict that a lot of things can't even pass the guidelines. So we, as a community, what we ask for people is to have clean, empty, and dry, and rinse your materials out. If we can present better materials, hopefully the hauler gets better prices. They get those prices from the materials recovery facility, and hopefully we can go back to what we were. It's just the fact that the material we're basically, primarily China was just like a dumping ground for us. We just thought we were ambitious in wanting to recycle, but just because it's could be recycled doesn't mean it is recycled. So a lot of that has kind of hit home, where haulers were making money on it. Now they're being charged money to dispose of our recyclables. Plastic bags, I know, is a major issue for when we're putting it into our cans, it's convenient for people to put plastic bags and transfer it to our larger collection bins. But those plastic bags are, although they're made of plastic, they are not really recyclable. And in fact, they get caught up into the machinery at these recycling facilities, cause them to shut down the facility, have to take out everything in order to the facility go back up. They lose downtime, costs everybody money. So as much as it's convenience, we kind of ask that if at all possible, try to limit that, remove that, and not put plastic bags in with the recycling. Just clean, empty, and dry into those containers. And leaf bags will be collected. Bagged leaves will be collected in April on recycling days. So if you need to use the My Waste Recycle Coach app, that would instruct you what days those would be. And then we kind of covered the branch list. And then the other thing I wanted to cover is e-waste. So e-waste needs to be brought to the recycling center. It'd be like televisions and computers and things like that. Those are not collected curbside. Anyone have any other questions on?
Council President, I also want to really say what Dan had said. We want clean, recycled products to come into that. Sometimes my office will get a call. I put out cardboard and so on, and if it's local, sometimes I'll ride over to the place. 6 pizza boxes with cheese, sauce, and oil in the box. That is not recyclable. That is contaminated cardboard and has to go in your regular garbage. So I want to be clear that the product that has to go to the recycler has to be a clean product. If they pick up a certain amount of that product that's not clean and they bring it to the facility where the recycling goes on, when they open the back of the truck, it is inspected. If they see these products that aren't clean recyclables in that truck, the truck is told to close and to go to the landfill. So they're not going to, if there's a certain amount on that truck, the total load is going to be rejected. So we may all have good intentions with putting things out, but things that are contaminated will not be taken. So if somebody asks you, they didn't take my cardboard, and we go out and we look at it and we found out that they're using it as, floor covering when they were painting their house and there was all paint all over it, that's why it wasn't taken. It's got to be a good product for them to recycle. We all have good intentions with this, but if it's dirty and it's not clean, it's not cleaned out, even containers and jars with spaghetti sauce and those various things, they should be rinsed and put out for recycle. You can't just put it in there. If it's dirty, they can't take it. And the laws and the regulations are getting stricter and stricter. And these haulers are going to come up, look in the can, and if they see dirty product in it, they're going to reject the can, much like when they go to their plant to dump the product, they can't accept it.
Peanut butter jars.
Peanut butter jars is the biggest item because they're difficult to clean out.
Right.
Okay.
So once again, I'm asking,
One last question.
once again, I am asking, because of all these law changes and rules and regulations that have come into play since China has, stopped accepting, and I've read also that a lot of towns in Pennsylvania are really paying the price of, having to pay for the recycling increase, almost 500%, some towns. How can we, council, township, on a municipal side, educate our residents of all these changes and what to expect and what we can expect from them going forward?
Basically kind of the suggestions we laid out with make sure you clean things out. I do that at my home, but maybe I have the benefit of being in this industry and kind of knowing kind of the right way to do things. Outreach, we try to do it at the community day. We'll be doing it on April 10th at the workshop we're going to be having. And there's always the My Waste app, Recycle Coach. So we think that those are the only avenues we can get it out to people. You know, if people want to call us and to speak to us about things, we'll be happy to help them out that way. But, you know, it's a group effort, and it's not just something that's, you know, here in East Brunswick. It's kind of a nationwide type epidemic,
yes.
basically, you know. And then on our last contract, we only had one hauler that bid on it. So it's not like there's tons of options out there either. So as you know, as a group, we need to try to do the best we can.
Yes.
Yep.
Especially for the future generations.
Yes, I
We
agree.
got to think about the future generations.
I mean,
He has one, I'll go there.
sure.
The one thing we didn't touch on is like light bulbs, compact fluorescent light bulbs
Mm-hmm.
today. What's the avenue for that?
Those are recyclable. Yeah.
Recycle?
Yep.
Are they separated at the recycling center, or?
We take them. We have them kind of boxed, and they come to collect them.
Okay.
Yep.
Just
But-
curious. I replaced light bulbs with LEDs now, and I got all these CFLs sitting around the house.
This has really nothing about the recyclable per se, except for the last 2 recyclable days in my neighborhood, they came at 6:20.
Okay.
Is that like the new way? 'Cause I think the ordinance
No.
is at 7, right?
The ordinance is 7, yes. So if that happens, please let us know. We'll you know,
Yeah.
we got to let them know that. I mean,
I mean, it wasn't snowing, I couldn't like justify like any reason to anybody.
right.
Yeah.
I know they shouldn't. We don't have. It's not like we open a gate and let them go out. And they know. And if they're not abiding by the rules, then we need to know that. But I know in the summertime they want to get out as quickly as possible to beat the heat. For the crews themselves, whether directed to or not, I'm not sure. It's on the contractor's end. The only thing I'd like to add, I mean, not trying to, you know, just trying to look out for everybody, is like single-use things, too. I mean, like myself, I bring a bottle to work. We have the bottle fillers here for water fountains. I know at home, some of my family, they use regular bottles, and we toss them. It just takes up a lot of volume, and it's a lot. So, you know, I know it's difficult to carry everything with you all the time, but those are some ways that we can kind of be introspective and maybe help ourselves out. But
Any further questions? All right. Thank you, sir.
okay, thank you.
for coming tonight.
Thank you.
Moving forward, we have a presentation tonight by the Fire District regarding the Fire District Number 2's budget by the East Brunswick Fire Department Number 2 Commissioners. But prior to them coming up here and making the presentation, I would like our town attorney.
I don't know if you're looking at
No, I'm
John.
looking at you. Our town attorney, Mike, if he can please, Ms. Baker, explain as to what the process and why this is happening tonight.
Sure. Under Title 40 of New Jersey statutes, the annual budgets for fire districts, like in the old days for school boards, has to come up for a vote. And if that district vote is turned down by the public, it then has to come to the council for review and a decision to increase, decrease, hold the same. And there's a requirement for a public hearing. So the fire district budget in District 2, I believe, was defeated by 6 votes. So even though it was only defeated 5 votes, thanks, Wayne, 5 votes. So even though it was only 5 votes, we still have to follow the process. The fire district comes, they make a presentation to us tonight, and then there's a session for public comment if anyone in the public would like to discuss it. Then the council will deliberate, and the council will decide what to do with the budget.
Thank you, Mike. So this time, I'd like to call up the commissioners to come up and make the presentation.
Do they want to sit at the table, or?
Wayne?
Wayne, what's
I
your
don't know.
preference?
Well, there's all 5 of us here.
It's up to you. You know, you want to sit at the table?
Well, my name is Wayne Lyons. I'm the chairman of the Board of Fire Commissioners.
Hello, Wayne.
How are you? I believe myself and my other commissioners, we can answer some of the questions that you may have in regards to the day-to-day operation of the budget, but we kind of brought our certified public accountant with us. If you would like to go over the numbers with him or any part of the budget, his name is Mike Bart.
Maybe maybe you just want to give a little bit of an I mean, Councilman McAvoy and I had the pleasure of sitting down with you guys along with some staff members and to get a little more understanding as to where the budget was. But maybe you want to talk about the relative increase and how conservative it was and what the impact is, should your budget get changed.
Our tax budget this year was $1,490,000.
Why don't you, so that you get on tape at least.
Yeah, sure, no problem.
Yeah.
I'm Mike Bard, as Commissioner Lyons introduced. Yeah, this year the district budgeted for total appropriations of $2.288,645. Of that amount, $1,443,643 was to be raised by taxes. That was compared to $1,394,289, which was raised in our 2018 budget. Excuse me. The budget, as it was prepared by the commissioners and the staff of the district, was very conservative. It fell within the guidelines of the state statutes, which call for a basic 2% increase per year. They call that a cap allowance. There are certain deviations to that. But overall, the amount to be raised by taxes it rises on a numbers basis a little over 3% from the year earlier. But it is still in line with the statutory cap, which all fire districts must follow when they strike their budgets. The budget was submitted to Trenton. The local finance board, as per our statute, has to review the budget once it's prepared. The commissioners adopted it in December as a preliminary operating budget. Sent it down to the local finance board down in Trenton, the Department of Community Affairs. They assign a budget auditor to audit the budget, review the computations and the submissions. They had some minor questions, nothing of a material impact on the budget. The result of their review wound up in no numbers being changed in either revenue or expenses for the fire district. It was approved, and in January it was voted as an adopted budget for the fire district, and then subject to the voters going out in the third Saturday in February to vote on the budget. As it turns out, I think the numbers we had all together, excuse me, the budget received 115 yes votes and 120 no votes, with the majority of the 120 no votes, 116 of those, coming from mail-in ballots, which is new this year. The statutes require that not only do you show up in person to vote for a budget, you also have to send out mailing ballots to everyone. So this was the first year that the district had experienced that. And we think that was probably the primary reason why this budget was voted down, we believe. Again, as I say, just to wrap up, it's a very minor increase from last year's budgeted amount. The expenditures remained on level with last year's budgeted expenses in 2018. And again, it was reviewed by the state of New Jersey, the local finance board. They approved it after reviewing it. And we think it's a sound budget. We think it's a conservative budget. And we believe that it should be approved as is.
What is your tax rate? What is?
1.1459, I believe it is.
And you've been in that ballpark for
years.
Several years. I mean, I just know having
The overall, I believe that the overall taxation for a home that would be assessed at $100,000, the tax increase would be $8 per year.
Right. Now, the point I was trying to make is you guys are pretty much what I consider to be the most fiscally responsible fire district in town. You know, from a rateable base, you have a larger rateable base than District 3. You've been at a very similar tax rate for many, many years. Having been a commissioner in District 3 when I used to live over there many years ago, and having been a resident in District 2 now since 2000, I've always been pretty aware of what's going on with the fire district, and always felt pretty confident in what you guys are doing. And the responsibility that you, Wayne, and the rest of your fire commissioners take in formulating this budget every year is something that you should be proud of.
Thank you.
The one thing I will question, not question, but just state, is that it's nothing different than what I stated when we met, is that you do have the per diem firefighters in there this year. And as you stated, you feel it's a necessity. I'm not a person to question that. Because if you have a responsibility to provide firefighting services to the residents of this district and East Brunswick in a mutual aid position, and I'm not in a position to question whether or not you are getting a truck out or not getting a truck out, or feel that your manpower during the day is adequate. As such, I'm not going to, I feel if we're going down that path, and as I told you and the other commissioners, that we need to have a more global conversation with public safety and everyone else and the other fire districts, because while I do believe that volunteerism across the board has dropped off at every level, and firefighting is probably one of the most important where volunteers are needed, I think if we're going to go down this path, it's a path that we need to look at collectively with the other fire districts and our public safety department, and maybe even our EMS department, to see how we potentially need to better staff this going forward. Not this year, maybe not next year, but I think it's a conversation that needs to be had. I don't think any of us, based on this increase, any of us are, at least I'm speaking for myself, any of us can feel that we can question what you're doing. I in turn will support the budget as it stands today, but I do caution you going forward that, as a resident of your district and also as a resident of the town, none of us want to see large increases, and I know you guys are all residents of the district, nor do you want to see that. So I just, we're going down a path where we're going to paid personnel, and it's a concern of mine. Again,
Oh, it's a concern of all of ours.
Sure.
Believe me, it's really, it's not an easy decision that I think that we just came about. As Mike said, the absentee ballots it was something new to us this year. We didn't really know where it went, but and believe me, it was thrown at us so late. We ended up sending out 2,300 absentee ballots in our area, and our area goes from New Brunswick to Ruse Lane, or Racetrack Road, I'm sorry, to Racetrack Road,
Yeah, listen.
and over, to Riders Lane.
Our firefighting services in this town, from your district to the other two districts, are second to none as far as I'm concerned. Volunteers are second to none. They give of themselves. The unfortunate part is it seems to have been the same faces for the last 30 years. I mean, I still seem to see all the same guys when I was on the fire department that are still there and maybe have transferred into different roles. But now I know that guys are serving on different fire, several of the fire companies in town. And that didn't happen 30 years ago.
30 years ago, we had I think there was something out there called a shift worker.
Yeah.
I don't know where that went, but somewhere along the line, our economy just got rid of them.
So listen,
It's tough.
I'm in support of leaving your budget alone, and I'm speaking for myself. But I caution you, and I say that going forward, we need
Membership
to have
is
more,
difficult.
We need to have bigger conversations.
We have to in order to put somebody on, we have to train them we have to send them to a school. We have to put gear on them. These are all, some of this stuff is very costly. I don't know exact number right now offhand, but I'm sure it's $5,000 to put a new guy on the department. And then we have to send him to a school, 120 hours at the Middlesex County Fire School, plus he has to go to our trainings. They're mandatory, one a month. It's a lot, and it's getting tough.
Talking about volunteers?
Yeah, volunteers.
Volunteers?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Speak.
The only difference between a volunteer and a professional, one's getting paid.
Paid.
That's right.
Money.
Councilman?
Yeah,
Sullivan?
first of all, I agree, I'm in agreement with Councilman Wendell on everything, and it's a shame that we can't get volunteers all the time. That's the sad part. But I just have one question also to ask. The absentee ballots were from all our ballots. In other words, anyone that received an absentee ballot, if I'm not mistaken, during the election. Is that true?
In the
That's how
last
it
3
is.
years, if you put it
Right,
in an
right.
application for absentee
Absentee
ballots,
ballot for the
the
election.
last 3 years, you will
general
now get
elections.
one.
Right, yeah.
Right.
A lot of people didn't realize that even when we were running, they came to the
And
polls.
the explanation on the absentee ballot is just a number. There's no explanation of the budget item. We
But
have
I-
to put it in 3 languages, but we don't really get a chance to explain it.
Right. And I also want to thank each and every one of you for your volunteer service. People don't realize that you get no pay doing all this work, and I just want to thank you for your time and services.
We try to solicit members all year long. It's an ongoing thing with us. We've done mailings, we've done signs. They have they have papers in the truck when they meet somebody, they talk to them. So it's not that we're not trying to get volunteers, we are. Of
course
Believe me,
not.
we are. And we would like to stay volunteer, we'd like to stay totally volunteer. If this has to go down, it has to go down for the safety of the people. We feel that everybody deserves to get a fire truck when they call for it. And if you call and we can't get you one, then we got a problem.
Thank
So-
you.
For the benefit of the public, would you please explain in detail where exactly is the increase coming from? What portion is it for the new per diem firefighters that you're going to pay for? Or is it the trucks, is it equipment? Which portion?
No, per diem firefighting, what our intentions of
Or
doing
if you can, if you can a
is
little bit
to-
elaborate a little bit more, because that's
We will
something that's...
probably put on 4 individuals 5 days a week, and they would run a 10-hour day. These individuals, most of them, or all of them, are either from outside sectors that are already qualified as firefighters, maybe in other cities. They would respond 30 hours a week. We have a pool of, I forget exactly what the number of the pool is, but we would pull these individuals out of that pool. We would have somebody that would be running the program to sign them up every day to make sure that we have 4 guys on the truck.
Now, are these established firefighters, or are these
Yes.
volunteers, or no?
No.
These are...
No, they're not volunteers, and that's another, that's a real sore subject because...
That's what I want to get a clear picture, because I know a lot of people volunteer, and now all of a sudden you're going to bring in paid per diem fighters. So how does that, the interaction between the volunteers and the per diem, I don't want to see...
The federal
problem
government
is-
decided that there's a thing called the Garcia Rule.
Okay.
And the Garcia Rule states that if you're a volunteer and you also work for the fire department, your total hours being compensated has to be, the dollar amount has to be greater than the minimum wage. So if you got a volunteer, or you got an individual who's working and works one day a week, 8 hours, 10 hours, and we pay him $20 an hour. I'm just using numbers, I don't know the numbers.
Okay.
So he would be making $200, but he also volunteers 30 hours at the firehouse. Now you have to take 30 hours plus 10 hours and divide that into his salary. It becomes a nightmare for us. Pardon me?
So you're not allowed to hire any, but if-
Basically, that's what it comes down to.
Any other questions on council?
Well, I just wanted to ask since you had brought it up, to qualify that how many of the votes were against that were mail-in, how many of the votes for were mail-in?
I think it was,
For the budget, there were 116 mail-in votes against. In person, there were only 4 votes against the budget.
What about for?
29 showed up in person, and 89 voted yay from mail-in votes.
Okay.
Going back to my question, just reiterate to us again the increase. Which portions are, being increased? I know we spoke about the per diem. Is there any other portion
I
of the
think we
budget
put in
that's being increased?
350,000?
For the paid, but Other than that, I'm just trying to scan this budget here and see what the really quantified, and the lion's share of it is salaries and wages for per diem. That is, yeah,
Okay.
I mean, everything else is pretty much held steady on this budget year after year. And again, another thing that the state makes you do is you do have to explain that down to the state. They want
Right.
to know what, of all their budget line items, what increased more than 10%. If it did increase or decrease more than 10%, they want to know why. And so that was answered. And the majority of it, again, is the per diem.
This is, again, this is the only, one of the only budgets that people get to vote for.
All right. And
It's
just,
the only one anyway.
I think this is the only one I've seen in 20 years I've been here.
No.
I don't know. But going back to what I was asking, this per diem that you're paying per firefighter right now, due to the lack of volunteers that you have, this is something that's being followed in other towns as well, right? Am I correct? And you've
South Over just put on per diem
Okay.
members, this budget. Their budget was approved. I was told today that they hired their coordinator, and they'll be putting on individuals.
More
That's
towns
local.
really have to go this route, as we discussed, because of the lack of volunteers.
Okay. Councilman Spadafino had a council question?
With this increase, is this the first year of doing this per diem?
We figured that this would
Or is this
cover
a bubble?
us for a one-year period.
Did we do this last year?
No.
All right, so this is new.
Yeah.
So you have a budgeted item, and at this point, you're really not sure, I mean, if we approve this, you're really not sure exactly how much of this budgeted item is actually going to be used up, correct?
Yeah, that is correct.
Correct.
Okay, and so whatever is not used,
Exactly, it falls into the available fund
Fund
balance of
All
the
right.
district.
okay,
For the
and
coming
then,
year.
would that cause you then to not need to necessarily ask for that same amount next year if it were not to be necessary to be used?
No, what would happen is the commissioners would look at the program in the budget cycle, September, and see where they are, how much has been spent on the program. Now, if the amount that they budgeted wasn't spent, then that variance, that favorable variance will basically run into the district's available fund balance. Now, next year, when they look at the program, what the budgeting statutes allow you to do is to keep within the 2% cap, which we spoke about earlier, is you can draw from available fund balance. Now, in this particular example, I'll just make it easy. If they budgeted to spend $100,000 per diem, and they wound up only spending $50,000, then that would mean $50,000 will go to available fund balance for that year. So what would happen is when they looked at the program next year, one of the ways that they can keep their tax rate as stable as possible is use the $50,000 from that available fund balance to kind of balance out and keep within statutory 2% cap for the coming budget year. So if they did not spend it, it's not like they, have lost it. They can use it to even out the tax rate for the following year for the taxpayers.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Nope.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
The council decision.
Well,
so
okay.
More than happy to stay out of that one.
Thank you.
At this time, we're going to hold a public hearing on Fire District Number 2 budget. If anyone from the public wishes to speak on this item and this item alone, please come up, state your name, and you have 5 minutes at the podium. Thank you. Anybody from the public wishing to speak?
I got in late and I apologize. I was at a district meeting, but I'm just come here to ask the council to support the budget for the fire company. I don't know a lot. I never had the pleasure of being a fireman or had that honor, but I do know that people who run it are good stewards of our money, and it'll probably be the only time you'll ever hear me come here to say it's okay to raise my taxes. All right, so I asked the council if they would support the budget. Thank you
Well
very
done,
much.
Tommy.
Thanks.
thought he was gonna do his flag.
Anybody else from public? Seeing none, I'm closing the public portion. Going on to the reports from the mayor. Anything tonight, sir?
Actually, nothing tonight, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. From our town administrator?
Just two items. We will, at the second meeting in March, have a proclamation on Women's History Month, so that is going to be prepared. So, Council President, I just asked that be listed on the agenda for
Yes.
the next council meeting. I also would just like to, I know Mr. Lozak had already left, our DPW director. He also runs the Water and Sewer Department, and he was here talking about garbage removal and so on. I'd just like to thank them for the great job that his staff, the Recreation Department, and the Engineering Department did with the snow removal from last week. It was a big effort. They had all the roads cleared, and except for a few minor complaints about snow being around a mailbox and stuff like that, I would say they did a stellar job, and I'd like to just thank the employees. While you're sleeping, they're out plowing snow and moving and distributing salt and sand and running backhoes and stuff like that. So just my appreciation to those members of the staff, those ladies and gentlemen that were out snow plowing all evening so everybody could get to work safely the next day. And once again, I can't be more proud of being the administrator and working with these people.
Thank you. For Director of Law,
No report this week.
from the town clerk?
No.
Anyone from the council, any council committee, board, or ad hoc committee reports? Seeing none, close this portion. We're moving on to the public portion. For the public portion, please, anyone coming up, please state your name and address for the record. Limit your comments to 5 minutes, and address all comments to the chair, please.
Hi, my name is Oleg Dulin. I live at 13 Lycoming Lane in East Brunswick, New Jersey. I know you guys heard
Your
from me.
address again, sir?
13 Lycoming Lane. Dan Losick mentioned that we're fortunate to have a landfill in our town. I would like to bring this issue up. I don't generally get this deeply involved in local politics, but I feel this issue is important. My family, my father-in-law here, he lived in East Brunswick for almost 20 years. My wife and I owned a home in this town for just over 10 years. December of this year, this was the first time we noticed the presence of the landfill. In December, you all know the stench was so bad that by the Turnpike Plaza, my throat was hurting. They had to close a school in North Brunswick because of the smell. Joe Cryan was here in January telling us that there will be continuous improvements. But the perception is that since January, there's been little observable progress and no transparency on the issue from the utility. Whether we notice in some parts of the town or not depends on which way the wind is blowing. If the wind is from the east, Pine Ridge and Eggers area smells. If the wind is from north-northeast, we can smell it by the high school and all the way down Route 18. If the wind is from the north, our friends in South River smell it, and so on. And if the wind is from the south, on my way home from work, I can smell it on the turnpike. This has not been this way before, and it's, I'm deeply concerned about it. On Friday, this last Friday, in response to my complaint, the utility sent a worker out. The worker showed up an hour after I complained, so the wind shifted a little, but the smell was still there. I could still tell it was there. The worker had no hydrogen sulfide or any other air quality sensor on him and was relying on subjective or preconceived notions to judge the situation. The worker denied the presence of the smell, as him and I talked about it in my own driveway. I could smell it. He said he couldn't. I did my research on the utility. I found that in 2010, they violated Clean Air Act. In 2012, they violated Clean Water Act. They also stopped publishing meeting minutes since December 2018. They haven't published their committee meetings since 2017. Given this lack of transparency, it should be no wonder why many of us don't trust the utility. What are they hiding? We haven't heard any word on the progress of their improvements. Let's look at the big picture. Let's just agree. I know I sent you all, and Mayor, I'm sorry, Chairman, sent everybody angry emails, but let's just agree that whatever is happening at the landfill today is a threat to vitality of this town. It's a threat to our town's redevelopment initiatives. It is a threat to our health, and it's a threat to our home values. So on this note, thank you, and I appreciate you listening.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to have the town... Is there anyone else who want to speak on this issue tonight?
Hi, my name is Catherine Nguyen. I live on Old Tenant Court. I wasn't going to speak today, but I just want to piggyback on what he's saying. The landfill is slated to close in 10 years because we get 10 feet of garbage a year from all of the county. I think it is imperative that we try to reduce the amount of trash going into the landfill so that in 10 years we aren't in a pickle where we are no longer getting millions of dollars from other towns for taking trash, and we are no longer getting a subsidized trash rate. The schools, I've spoken to them, they are gross offenders of the amount of trash that they produce, producing 450,000 styrofoam trays a year, as well as over 1 million plastic utensils. And again, this doesn't biodegrade. And that's just in 1 year, and this has been going on for over 10 years. As well, I would think it would be wise to put a plastic bag ban so that people start to realize the impact they're having. We are, in fact, coastal. Stuff just drains right into the Raritan Bay, and that goes right into the Atlantic Ocean. The amount of trash I see on the roadside is obscene. And I'd like you to take your time when you drive and look. All of that goes in the gutter and then right out to the sea. So this is something that the town has to take more seriously. In 10 years, when you want to sell your house, you're going to have a hard time because the tax rate is going to go way up as you now have to pay more for trash, and you're no longer getting several millions of dollars from the other towns. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
I agree. We need to be more cognizant of what we're putting not only in recycle, but into trash. Dan had mentioned before the amount of garbage, that additional garbage we pick up in the summer just because people are putting their grass clippings into the trash. And that weight, we're paying for at the landfill, especially if that grass is wet. Has everybody, if you've ever taken a bag of wet grass down to the curb, you realize how heavy that is. We pay per ton for that to get dumped there. So think about what Dan had said in his presentation. If we were able to cut our grass, cut a portion of it, leave it, it turns into nitrogen, and leave it there, rather than picking it up, putting it into the truck, and now when that truck is weighed, we're paying for it to get disposed. So I agree with you on that note. We also spend an awful lot of time cleaning storm drains and so on for trash that's in the road. So I would agree that as that trash goes into the street, where does it go when it rains? It goes down to the catch basins, and as we replace catch basins, we've blocked so items can't get into there. So we hope residents are picking up those items, either putting it into their recycle or putting in there. So the key tonight, as Dan had said, was let's put a better product into the recycle bins so it can really be recycled. The mayor and I have been in touch with the Middlesex County Utility Authority people, I would say almost on a weekly basis. We call them all the time, wanting a status and update of what's going on there. I do know that they've made about a $2.4 to $2.6 million investment in what's going to occur in the next couple of months. Okay? I agree. Last night, I went over to the Metro Diner. I went down, to the jug handle there at Edgeboro Road, and I could smell it. I sent him an email while I was sitting eating my turkey dinner at Metro Diner. Okay?
I can verify that.
He was with me. So we are taking it seriously. I want all the residents to know we are taking this serious. The mayor and I have the people from the utility authority on speed dial on our phones, okay? So smells are subjective, though, to people. So I asked you, if you smell it, to call it in, have them report it on their site. Things that I could smell, other people can't smell. Some people that I was with yesterday said they didn't smell anything. I smelled it. I smelled it all the way into South River, okay? And I had a conversation with them today. I would say that if you're really passionate about this, that you maybe look into sending a letter or so on to the utility authority. There's a group of people, commissioners, that are on that utility authority. They have a meeting on March 26th at 4 o'clock. You can go to their website. Their meeting minutes are published. Their dates of when the meetings are going to be are on that website. They are the authority that are moving this project along. It is taking longer than what I would like to see. Certainly, I know the mayor would like to have seen it taken care of quickly as well. We've had some strange weather patterns. I know they have flown drones over the top of the landfill itself to take readings, pretty advanced technology. They've also come in for a pre-construction or a review for their permit for their odor control system, which will be one of the first in New Jersey. I know the staff has gone down to Texas where they had a similar problem there, and it's now been approved and in design. But these systems are unique to each one of the sites, and they have to be built. So the construction official here met with them along with the building department and the engineer and the plumbing and electrical inspectors to look at the plan. So we are constantly in communication as your governing body and your administrator. We're constantly in touch with them, pushing them along. We know that they're supposedly going to be capping some of that landfill on various sides. They can't do it when the weather is like it is. They just can't. Can I say it's gotten better or gotten worse? I guess it depends on where you live, okay? So we share your concerns. We have been in touch with them. But I would say, if you want to take it to the next level, actually, reach out to them and go to their meetings and explain to them your frustrations. Because the mayor and I have been in communication with with them, and we try our best to keep pushing them along. I think the weather has become a factor, but I believe that hopefully by the time they get the odor control system in, which from what I understand could take 90 to 120 days just to manufacture it, and then they're going to need to install it. So I just wanted to let you know we are working on this. It's not that your comments have been going on deaf ears. Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you. Mayor?
Yeah, I just want to piggyback on what our business administrator said. We have not really stopped talking to the MCUA since the problem began. And I think there's two separate issues. One boils down to the actual physics of what's going on and the problems that they're occurring and the methods by which they're trying to correct the problem. I don't think anybody doubts there's a problem. And personally, I don't think it's gotten dramatically better, because you could look at the number of complaints and there's no graph that would show you that complaints are going down. It just has not really gotten better. And we do keep constantly in contact with Mr. Cryan and the entire MCUA. And they will give us all the explanations of what they're doing to try to solve the problem. No different than I do when I try to explain to a patient a surgery that I'm about to do that I know is evidence-based, the right thing to do, explain in ultimate detail so that you understand exactly what I want to do. But can I promise you that it's going to work? No. And at the end of the day, if it doesn't work, which can happen, then it's my job to go back to you and explain to you why it didn't work and what we're going to do to try to come up with an alternative. So we have one problem with that's just not getting better because what they tried to do didn't work, and the weather and many other circumstances have caused them difficulties in getting the work done in a timely manner. That's problem number one. But the bigger problem is communication, because I think most people understand everything that I just said, that you could try something, it didn't work. That the problem is that Joe and I shouldn't be doing the explaining to you. We don't run the MCUA. That's run by separate people, and it's their responsibility to not use us as their spokespeople, but to do that for themselves, whether that's coming out more regularly, having a more up-to-date and interactive website. We live in a day and age when that really isn't that difficult to do, or writing letters to people in the community that are affected, or writing something into the press. I think people tend to give you a second chance if you explain what the problem is, and that you haven't gotten. So to the extent that we could be that voice for you, we're going to do that. But I would definitely take advantage of getting out to the MCUA at their meetings in New Brunswick. I think that's where they are.
No, they're in Sayreville, Lower Main Street.
And we'll publish for you the dates and the times and locations. But I think that backing up what we have already been doing for you is the best way of getting your voices heard. And we share the same concern. We do want redevelopment to occur in town. We do want people to move back. We do want your property values to stay high. Our schools, our town, our survival depends on that. So we're on the same page. I think the bigger problem, like I said, is the communication, because the physics and why something didn't work is very reasonable, and I do believe they're making the effort. But we need to continue the pressure, and I thank each and every one of you for coming out here and voicing your concerns, because it just adds to the ability for us to represent you in the best way possible. So, thank you.
I do have a resolution when their dates are going to be, so I'll be happy to give it to you after the meeting, and you can know when the actual dates of their meetings are. Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else from the public wishing to speak? Seeing none, I will close the public portion. Moving on to the consent agenda. Is there any item on the consent agenda that needs to be separated? Anyone on council?
F.
Item F. Anything else? Okay, can I get a motion for the following, items A through E and items G and H?
Motion to adopt.
Motion by Councilman Wendell. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Sullivan. Ms. Perry, please call the roll.
Councilman McAvoy.
Yes.
Councilman Spadafino.
Yes.
Councilwoman Sullivan.
Yes.
Councilman Wendell.
Yes.
Council President Stanley.
Yes. Moving on to item F, 16569. Can I get a motion of the Township of East Brunswick authorizing the procurement of a concessions contract for providing a basic life support emergency medical service response and transportation system?
Motion to adopt.
Motion by Councilman Wendell.
Second.
Second by Councilman Spadafino. Open the discussion.
Council President, can we get an explanation for this?
Sure. Under New Jersey state purchasing laws, whenever we are going out for a concession at all. So likewise, many months ago, you approved a similar resolution for us to go out for the concession at Crystal Springs for somebody to sell hamburgers and Slurpees and so on. So somebody's going to make money off of that. So prior to us going out for a concession RFP, we need authorization from the council to proceed forward with the same. So purchasing laws require this. Our contract with the St. Peter's at this particular time is expiring in the next several months, so it's time to go back out for another cycle of this particular service. It is a concession because they will be billing, naturally, people's insurance and so on. So it is considered a concession underneath the New Jersey state purchasing laws, and this is why this resolution is necessary.
The RFP will be the same as last year. It's going to be part-time?
No, it will be for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, as requested by the police department.
So that's what I didn't see in the words that were used to describe this. We are going to a full-time rescue squad.
Whoever is qualified and is picked as the winner will be the provider of the service, yes.
Step one. This is step one in that,
This is step
in that
one.
process.
Step two will be, the bid package would be published, and then any responsible bidder can then receive the package by contacting Ms. Perry's office, because we need to keep a record of who's picked up the package, and she will supply that to them either by them coming to the window, or she'll forward it to them accordingly once she gets the associated contact information.
What happens to the existing East Brunswick Rescue Squad?
They may or may not be a viable bidder. They could bid on it if they meet the criteria.
In this hypothetical model, they do not win the bid. What happens to the physical property where the rescue squad vehicles are kept?
I will defer to our attorney.
Since we are presently in litigation with the squad about a significant debt that they have not repaid to the township, I don't think I want to discuss the disposition of their assets at this time.
So I'll finish by saying that this is step one, but there are multiple unanswered questions. And there will be another resolution in time to define step two, step three, step four.
The council will see all the responses when they come back from the bidders, and there'll be a recommendation from the administration, but it's a council decision as to which bidder to choose.
Thank you.
Ms. Perry, can you please call the roll?
Councilman McAvoy?
We can move forward with this, but this is really a treacherous, this is a slippery road. Yes.
Councilman Spadafino?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sullivan?
Yes.
Councilman Wendell?
Yes.
Council President Stanley?
Yes. Moving on to ordinances that require a public hearing date for March 25th, 2019. Can I get a motion for the following? A, ordinance 19-04 of the Township of East Brunswick prohibiting, amending, and supplementing smoking regulations, amending Chapter 158.
Motion to adopt.
Motion by Councilman Wendell, second.
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Sullivan. Before we vote on this, just for the public's edification, can you just give a brief synopsis? I know the presentation was made. Can you just make a brief synopsis as to why we're changing
Sure.
this?
At the request of our police department and in working with the Board of Education, a request was made to ban vaping on public properties, which would include the school grounds. Apparently, vaping in the bathrooms of not only tobacco or tobacco products, but also cannabis products has become a problem at the high school.
Thank you. Ms. Perry, can you please call the roll?
Councilman McAvoy?
Yes.
Councilman Spadafino?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sullivan?
Yes.
Councilman Wendell?
Yes.
Council President Stanley?
Yes. Can I get a motion for B, ordinance 19-05, amending Chapter 209, Vehicles and Traffic, Section 52, Schedule 8, stop intersections of the Code of the Township of East Brunswick.
Motion adopted.
Motion by Councilman Wendell. Second by Councilman Spadafino. Any discussion? No?
I do have a question on this. These, what exactly is this saying?
This is saying that there are stop signs at these particular intersections that the police department is requesting, and that it's not in our code book. So we need to clean up the codification of our code by you allowing these stop signs to be at these particular intersections.
Okay, because I live on one of these streets, and there is a stop sign.
That's right.
And I'm saying,
But the code book doesn't reflect that, so this is, it's a cleanup part of the, whenever you last codified it, they weren't included, so now we want to fix that issue with the codification.
If I may add to
Sure.
that, I mean, my guess is just saying that should someone drive down that road and get a ticket for running a stop sign, an attorney can come back and say,
Yeah, we'd have
not in the
to
code book.
dismiss it.
Not a valid stop sign.
okay, good,
Those darn attorneys.
good, I just,
Thank you. Ms. Perry, please
Not
call the
right.
roll.
Councilman McAvoy?
Yes.
Councilman Spadafino?
yes.
Councilwoman Sullivan?
Yes.
Councilman Wendell?
yes.
Council President Stanley?
Yes. Moving on to the new business, can I get a motion for,
Well, I'd like to make a motion. The next item is regarding the budget for Fire District 2. I'd like to make a motion to approve the budget as presented without making any changes.
I second that.
motion by,
Discussion?
any discussion?
Yes.
Please.
The genesis of local democratic municipal government is volunteer work. Whether it be the countless hours members on various boards and commissions that they volunteer on to lend a voice to governance, or the work that firefighters do by saving the lives of others in the midst of undeniable danger. Therein lies the difference. Firefighters put themselves into the forefront of personal injury and volunteer to do it. The East Brunswick Independent Fire Company is such an organization and has demonstrated fiscal responsibility throughout its existence. With over 770 calls in 2018, with the responsibility of safety and protection for the New Jersey Turnpike, with 10 pieces of mobile equipment that were purchased and then trained on and maintained daily, with 3 fire stations fully operational, with the cooperation of neighboring towns, especially in New Brunswick, with special training and equipment for the PNC Towers in Farrington Lake, just to name a few of the many examples of the fine daily work operations. Let me read just a small excerpt from the 2019 Fire District budget for purposes of the video camera and this particular platform. Page 6. Whereas the annual budget as introduced reflects total revenues of $2,288,645, which includes an amount to be raised by taxation of $1,443,643. And this increase will equate to less than $8 of an average home in East Brunswick that is paying $10,500 in taxes last year. So $8 cannot be a measure of the value of a home, nor dare I say that it is worth the value that we place on the strength and courage that our District 2 firefighters face in their daily struggle to protect us. Therefore, I fully support the passage of the East Brunswick Fire District Number 2, 2019 budget as it stands. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman. Anybody else on council?
No, I think we talked enough about it.
Okay.
Call the roll.
It's getting late.
Yes. Let's call the roll.
Councilman McAvoy.
Yes.
Councilman Spadafino.
Yes.
Councilwoman Sullivan.
Most definitely, yes.
Councilman Wendell.
Yes.
Council President Stanley.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Moving on to the good of the cause. Does anyone have a good?
Just remind everybody, on March 24th, the Daisy Breakfast. Also, my office hours this week are from 5 to 7 tomorrow. And can you talk about your flag raising? I thought you were going to talk about it, the flags that you're selling, and a little bit more how to purchase it. Tommy?
Actually, it's the Parks and Recreational that are doing
Oh,
that.
okay, I didn't realize that. I'm sorry.
Down there. But we're working with them on doing it, and I think they're sending out notifications to people who want to donate and have a flag. And I do know that they said that the proceeds of that will come to the VFW Post for our veterans. Okay?
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none. Can I get a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Good night, everybody.